Welcome back once again to my Diablo 3 channel. This is Mike Kim, and today we are going to be talking about the PvP Barbarian in Diablo 3. Now, if you've played any other MMORPG, or if you've never played another MMORPG, or you're not familiar with PvP, the things you'll need to take note of specifically when you're in a player versus player setting is you'll need to kill targets quickly, and as a melee character, maintain pressure on them all the time. So as a melee character, probably one of the most dangerous situations is when an enemy player is able to kite around you, is able to knock you away, is able to disable you by stunning you or crowd controlling you via hexes or charming abilities. If I'm not mistaken, there is a fear ability in this game, and there is charm as well as a variety of stuns. So the most important things you'll need to take note of are deal damage. Make sure you are always within range to keep dealing damage to apply pressure. With this role intended, I picked up a few abilities here. You'll see I have Bash as my Fury generator. Here it generates 6 Fury per attack. Brutally smash an enemy for 145% weapon damage with a 20% chance to knock the enemy back. However, because I picked up the Obsidian Runestone, instead of knocking enemies back, each hit has a 20% chance to stun them for 2.8 seconds. Now, instead of them stunning you and getting away, you are able to stun them, interrupting whatever casting or whatever skills they were using, and they'll have to stand there for 2.8 seconds and deal with you smashing on their face. Another Fury generator I have, but it's on a 30-second cooldown, which means it can't be spammed, is Warcry. Unleash a rallying cry to increase armor for you and all allies within 30 yards by 100% for 60 seconds. If you'll notice in my other Barbarian builds, I also picked up Warcry because it's a fairly useful skill because it's so flexible. But on the other hand, this is personal preference, it may not be the same for others. I picked up the Obsidian Runestone here as well. I think I picked up the Obsidian Runestone for Warcry on solo PvE Barbarian, I think. I'm not too sure, but anyway. Increasing your resistances by 50% is very significant, especially in PvP, because there will be so much spell damage flying all over the place. You'll meet with wizards, you'll meet with witch doctors and stuff like that, and just by having one skill, you're able to reduce that damage that you take by 50%. This is godlike, well, in my opinion. It's on a 60-second duration, and the cooldown's on 30 seconds, and it generates 30 Fury. So this is a must-have for me, but once again, like I said, it's subjective, so you may not agree, but if anything, we'll all be experimenting on it when Diablo 3 goes live. Here's Wrath of the Berserker. I've heard so much about it, but the cost is 50 Fury. Enters a Berserker Rage which raises several attributes for 15 seconds. Several attributes is increasing your critical hit by 10%, your attack speed by 45%, your dodge chance by 20%, and your movement speed by 20%. In addition to that, which is already a lot, activating Wrath of the Berserker knocks back all enemies within 12 yards, which is almost melee range, and deals 455% weapon damage. This hits very hard. Hammer of the Ancients, a spammable skill but requires 20 Fury each time. Call forth a massive hammer to smash enemies directly in front of you for 180% weapon damage. It doesn't end there. Hammer of the Ancients has a 15% increased chance to critical hit. This hurts. There was a video that was shown in BlizzCon somewhere in October where a barbarian was running around hammering people using this Hammer of the Ancients, and he was demolishing his enemies. It was glorious. Other than that, if you place the Obsidian Runestone, which I did because the other options are good, just I prefer that my enemies can't get away, so I picked up the Devil's Anvil, it's called. It creates a tremor at the point of impact that slows movement speed of enemies by 40% and deals additional 54% weapon damage over 2 seconds. What this does is it drops a small dot on the enemy and it slows them by 40%, which is pretty good, since that also means if you hit them, they most likely won't be able to get away. So one thing I mentioned earlier about applying pressure on your opponents to make sure they cannot get any breathing room, this is what is one of the effects of picking the right skill for the right job. Here you'll see I also picked up sprint because although I am fairly familiar with PvP, I am also worried that there will be so many skills in Diablo 3 for other classes to get away from melee range that I picked this up for 20 Fury, increasing my movement speed by 40% for 6 seconds, and I picked up the Crimson Runestone, which further increases my movement speed to 60% increase for 14 seconds. This is specifically for when I cast Furious Charge on enemies and somehow do not manage to kill them while I'm right next to them. This is with the assumption they have a knockback or a stun or if I'm not mistaken, the Demon Hunter, I think? Yeah, the Demon Hunter has an ability called Vault, so if they see you charging towards a particular location, all they have to do is vault away and you can finish follow up your Furious Charge with a sprint. Furious Charge generates 15 Fury, cooldown on 10 seconds, rushes forward, dealing 190% weapon damage. If you take the Crimson Runestone like I did, it increases the damage at destination by to 445% weapon damage. So if they get hit, it deals a lot of damage. But if you Furious Charge somebody, gaining 15 Fury, and cast Warcry, gaining another 30 Fury, that's 45 Fury. If you are not in melee range, you can simply cast Sprint, which is 20 Fury, catch up to them, and finish them off from there. Applying pressure once again. For passive skills, I picked up the Juggernaut. Duration of control impairing effects on you are reduced by 20%, so if it's supposed to stun you for 5 seconds, it will only stun you for 4 seconds. For example, whenever you become stunned, feared or charmed, you have a chance to recover 15% of your maximum life. It does not state here what is the percent chance, but it's quite a significant amount, 15%, assuming there will be a lot of crowd control being thrown all over the place. Ruthless increases your critical hit chance by 5%, critical hit damage by 50%. This is great simply because you would want to burst down enemies as quickly as possible. You have abilities that can deal 445% of your weapon damage. Can you imagine if you crit for it and you deal 200%, because a normal crit is 150% of the normal damage. If it was a normal attack, it would deal 100 damage. If it crits, it's 150 damage, and if you have Ruthless on you, it will deal 200 damage. And if it was from a Furious Charge, 445%, that's a lot of numbers, but I could calculate it's about 900 damage if the basic weapon damage was 100. Now Nerves of Steel here increases my armor by 25% of your vitality. This is most likely optional. You could take this, you could take Unforgiving, which is over here if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, instead of degenerating Fury, you instead gain 1 Fury every 2 seconds. I'm not sure how long PvP battles last for a Barbarian. I mean, you either kill your opponent or they kill you. So if fights do last very long, you may want to pick this up. Otherwise, if you find you're fighting a lot of physical damage classes like the Demon Hunter or other Barbarians, you might want to keep using Nerves of Steel. This is all up in arms pretty much because nobody knows for sure what's the right spec. So personally, it'll be up to you. Anyway, this is my video on the PvP spec Barbarian. Thank you for watching. Good night.